So nowadays there's lots of data around that you have to interpret. So we have to be careful about being able to interpret some data and to see what data and graphs could be misleading. So we've got a few examples here. So if you take a look at this graph here, hard at work, we can see that we have this graph. This is the years, and here this represents the number of people employed, and it says hard at work. So you see that at this point here, there is this what they would consider recession because it's going down. Okay, there's a downward trend. And then at this point in 2003, there's a tax cut by, at that time, it would have been President Bush. And it looks like the economy or the number of people employed is going up. Okay, so that's like, you would think that it looks like there's a recession, and then the tax cut got us out of the recession. So why would this graph be misleading? Okay, well, you can kind of see it might be misleading because what they've done is they've really accentuated the y-axis here. So they're only showing a very small section of the y-axis, which is showing that little changes show up quite drastically. So there's actually very little change from here to here. Okay, in fact, it's like it's about 2 million change. And then from here to here, there's only about a 4 million change. So it's very little change that's actually going on, but it's accentuated by the axes because you can see that it looks like a steeper curve this way and a steeper curve back up. Okay, so determine why the graph's misleading. Well, the y-axis has been scaled. The scale to accentuate the y-axis, the changes. Okay, and part B says, can you identify the bias? Okay, well, why would somebody want to produce a graph like this? What's the bias? Bias means, is there like an agenda here, a hidden agenda, or something that somebody's trying to promote? So in this case here, it looks like that this graph is trying to promote the fact that the tax cut is what's causing the economy to go back up. Okay, so the bias is maybe this is the Bush administration. So I'm just going to put maybe because we don't know for sure, but maybe the Bush administration is trying to show that their policies are working. Okay, so here's another one here. We have the title is Times Leaves the Rest Behind in print and online. So it says here we have the global visitors to the Times website. It has a scale in millions here. Here is full price sales. Here is the full price sales in comparing the Times and the Guardian. Okay, the Times and the Financial Times, the Times and the Daily Telegraph. Okay, so you have, looks like there's lots of people that are visiting the Times website. So in this case here, well, there's no scaling of the y-axis or anything, but there's very interesting trend that's going on at this point in time. At 2004, this is when the internet kind of bubble is kind of growing and growing, and every company or every newspaper outlet is getting this kind of growth. So they don't show the growth of the other outlets. Here, when they show do a comparison, notice that they've scaled the y-axis here. Okay, so that they're accentuating the differences in the amounts. Okay, so here between 44,800 and 485,000 compared to 446,000. It looks like a big difference, almost more than twice the difference, but it's actually proportionally not that big. Okay, here this is, proportionally the same because they're having the same scaling on the y-axis here, same thing. But between the Daily Telegraph and the Times, they've scaled this axis. Okay, so the graph that's most misleading is going to be this one here. It's going to be the Times versus Daily Telegraph. So the bar graph of Times versus Daily Telegraph. Okay, and because the scale, y-axis scale, is different. And this is to accentuate the differences. Okay. So again, when you manipulate how data is displayed, you can kind of uh, kind of show bigger differences than what actually exist. Okay, so by changing the scale and the axis, you can magnify or minimize differences in the data. So in this case here, the scaling is magnifying the differences in the data.